Buckle up, buttercups. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's Kasim with your daily Google News, and Google made an announcement today that's going to take some time for me to get through. So if you don't want to sit through all that, I'll give you the quick and dirty. Google has rolled out conversion action rules, and basically what they're saying is we can create rules that increase the value of a conversion inside of the Google Ads dashboard, thereby equipping Google with the ability to bid more aggressively or at a minimum identify what would be more valuable to us, where all other things would otherwise be equal. So here's an example. You can go in there and say, hey, Google, I sell nationwide, but a lead in California is worth 2x a lead anywhere else. And so you're going to go in and create a conversion action rule and say, if the location is the state of California, then this conversion is worth 2 times other conversions. And Google is going to apply that value and then help optimize your campaign according to those new values. I have so many thoughts on this. The first one is Google is doing a really good job of trying to peer into our businesses. Like, hey, bro, how much money do you really make? And we can see that with the offline conversion tracking and how much easier they're trying to make that. What's interesting about this, though, is those two things are mutually exclusive. So you can't use conversion action rules and offline conversion tracking. Somebody spot check my logic if you think I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. Offline conversion tracking, if you're not familiar, let's say that somebody buys something from you, okay? They buy $5, and then 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, they buy another $5 worth of whatever. You can take that purchase, port it into Google using the G-Clit, append it to that user's profile effectively, is the way that I would view it inside of what Google's looking at. It's not that you could see that, and then Google can say, oh, this prospect is actually worth double. That's good for me to know. That information cascades across the entire logic map that it's using to optimize your campaigns, and now they're going to bid more aggressively for that prospect. Offline conversion tracking is truly an amazing way to optimize your campaigns long term. My partner and I had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet, and one of the things that we did, I'd say one of the 3 most important things we did is making sure that we actually gave Google our real numbers. Which I have an issue with that I'll talk about in just a moment. All that to say, though, offline conversion tracking lets you port in your real numbers. What conversion value rules is going to do is let you give Google your approximates. Hey, I happen to know somebody from this location, this audience, this device. Those are the 3 factors, by the way, that you can use to build rules off of. I happen to know that they're worth $10 more, they're worth double, or whatever. The problem here is you're going to have an issue of how do you check that long term? So let's say you apply one of these conversion action rules and say, this particular prospect in California is worth 2x. Well, unless you've built that logic somewhere else, and which wouldn't be difficult to do, right? You just need to go into export your CRM or your purchase information or whatever, and then map those 2 things side by side and make sure the rules that you gave Google are correct. So really what I'm saying is you have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. You have to know the lifetime value of a customer. And if you don't know your numbers at all, you're actually in a safer position than somebody who thinks they know their numbers and is wrong. Because if you don't know your numbers at all, you're just not going to play with this. If you think you know your numbers and you're wrong, you're giving Google carte blanche to go and spend more on behalf of prospects that you have inadequately valued. So be really careful with this. That's thought number 1. Thought number 2 is, and I shot another video on this, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it's important for us to bring up because this plays very naturally into that entire narrative. This is the only system of commerce I've ever seen where the seller of a product gets to see who all of the buyers are. So here are all my potential buyer pools, how much each of them is willing to spend on the product, and how much they make. It's insane. It's the most fertile ground for price fixing I've ever seen in my entire life. Because if you were Google, you have a certain amount of inventory to sell. And you don't necessarily want to just find the person who's going to buy the most inventory. Instead, if you're playing the long game, you want to find a way to maximize that inventory so you have the most number of buyers paying you the most amount of money based off of what they make over time. Why wouldn't they do that? Now, does that scream antitrust? Sure. But how do we know? How do you ever know? As a matter of fact, it would be hard for them not to do it. This is an algorithmic engine. You have to assume that they're using that same machine learning in order to maximize their own profitability. So giving Google your conversion values, it's dangerous. Now, I've done it in the past and it's been very successful. So, but man, we're making a deal with the devil. And I don't know what that means long term. That's going to be really interesting to see. Also, if you've taken our other education and or watched some of my other YouTube videos, you might know that I don't like giving Google conversion values unless I actually know the conversion value. So e-com, great. SaaS, awesome. Like if you know how much you're making on this customer, fantastic. If you don't know your numbers, don't play this game. It's a super dangerous game to play. The other thing that I'll say is this is going to give the quote unquote the bad guys. I've seen people spoof conversions in really interesting ways. We do account audits for people who are interested in hiring our agency for Google Ads management. And sometimes we'll get in there and we'll see somebody, like an agency, set it up so that every time somebody visits a specific page, it counts as a conversion. And that's a way to effectively lie to their customer. And I've seen things that are more sophisticated than that. But just as an example, the problem with that, though, is it's not foolproof because, page view happens often. If you've got a 2% conversion rate, you know what I mean? Like 2% of versus 98 people visiting, and if I find conversions on the page view, then it's going to say, hey, you got 100 leads when you got 2. And it's easy for a customer to look at that and say, well, that's not correct, which is why people have to get a little bit more sophisticated with the way they lie about the numbers. What Google's doing here is they're giving people the ability to lie in a way that paces with the truth. So, hey, just increase all those conversion numbers by 20%. And now a customer's going to look at that and be like, kind of checks out, and the trend line sort of checks out. Like, oh, we were busy last week, we're not busy this week, and my report says the same thing. So, sadly, that's something we have to worry about, and that's something that I've seen less than reputable agencies do. And really, what that means is you just have to know. You have to know where you would go to see that, and I'm going to show you here in this video. I'm going to demo the whole thing, exactly how it works for you, so you can see just the functionality of it. What else do I want to say? I think that's it. I think I'm going to dive in, and I'll come up with other thoughts. So I read all the documentation, by the way, all this morning, and I'm going to go over it with you. If you just want to skip to the demo, then feel free to skip to the demo. This is the article that came out today. Better control over smart bidding with conversion value rules. So we're going to be able to adjust conversion values based on characteristics. It's funny, they say characteristics like location, device, and audience. Well, those are the only 3 characteristics, fella. So I don't know that that's super applicable. It's important to note these rules will be used by maximize conversion value and target ROAS to optimize your bids in real time, i.e. I don't think I use IE, by the way. I think it's actually EG, but somebody, an English major, please correct me. Basically, what Google's saying is, we're going to spend more money. If you tell me a customer is worth more to you, then I'm going to use that to spend more money. So a couple of notes about conversion value rules. And this is just what when I went through these articles, this is what I took away from it. I'm going to include links to all of this in the description of this video. So you have the same opportunity. Let me know if you catch something that I didn't. But you're going to be able to optimize based off of like customers that have different margins or different types of users, lifetime value considerations. Google actually has an article where they help you figure out how to calculate your lifetime value, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's basic arithmetic. Conversion value rules only apply to search, shopping, and display campaigns, which is worth noting. That's about right. There's sort of the bulk of Google's inventory. They give you an interesting example here on, your leads are valued at $5, but you happen to know that a California lead is worth $10. That's a good use case where you'd use conversion action rules, and then they teach you how to do it, which is, it's not a bad example. Now, this is interesting. Smart bidding already uses signals like geography, device, and first-party audience lists. If a user in one of those segments converts better, and this is reflected in reporting, smart bidding already accounts for that. So where you need to be careful is trying to use conversion action rules to just get more of what you want when they're not necessarily more valuable per se. What Google's saying is, hey, we've already got that. Like, I already know that this type of prospect converts better for you, and I'm going to optimize for them. What this really needs to rely on is where you're going to truly make more money. And what Google can do now is, we've optimized in that direction anyway, and you're telling me they were double? Okay, cool, I can spend more, I can be more aggressive, etc. So be careful about trying to trick the algorithm here. I'm all about lying to Google, but this is one place where I think you actually shoot yourself in the foot. Interesting little article, Impact of Conversion Value Rules on Smart Bidding and Performance. You want to optimize for potential lifetime value of customer. Yes, of course. Thank you, Google. Appreciate that. They have an article here, how to estimate your lifetime customer conversion value. conversion value rules created at the campaign level will not affect bidding performance or reported conversions for other campaigns. That's good to know. And I will have to play with this more before I really dig deep into per campaign conversion values. I don't even know how to set that up right now. But it's an important distinction, I guess. And then we've also got removing conversion value rules. This is really important. Target ROAS and maximize conversion value bidding will aim to drive as much conversion value as possible, taking into account any rules that remain currently active in the account. Basically, if you remove a conversion action rule, your smart bidding is still going to continue, but I think you're going to have a data problem. There's going to be a line of demarcation where anything before this date, when the conversion action rule was in existence, is going to look better than anything after when it was removed. And you need to remember, I had a conversion action rule that improved or increased. I can't imagine retroactive removal. I actually think that would be damaging to the data long term. So the only way this could work is you're going to have disparate data. And again, this is going to be something that bad agencies use to lie to customers. I wish I knew a better way to guard against that, because you just go into the conversion actions and you see if there are any rules applied. Here's how you can calculate your conversion value. Now they have a conversion value rules report, which is really cool. We can go in and modify our columns basically. And what's nifty is Google's going to show us the original value if the rule was applied, the original value if no rule was applied, meaning that the conversion didn't fall within the umbrella that you created, and then the net adjustment. So you're going to be able to go in there and actually see the impact of the conversion value rules. I also really like the store visit reporting and the fact that this is playing into that. I don't do a ton with local businesses. We have some. I'd like to do more. I think sometimes we're just kind of priced out of that market. But this would be a place where I'd say, hey, we're going to go create conversion value rules and say that local businesses, local visits are worth, I don't know what, exponentially more, because if somebody walks in, that's huge, depending on the business, obviously. Setting up our conversion values, I'm going to run through this with you. We'll do a live demo here in just a minute. A couple of notes, though, and see, I just don't understand this. And if you're a software engineer, or maybe just a smarter person than me, then I'd love for you to explain this to me. They're giving us 3 values that we can use, and you can set a primary condition and an optional secondary condition. So I can say, anybody in this location, and then that's my secondary condition. Here's what's weird, is all value rules in your account must use the same type of primary and secondary conditions. So if I create a conversion value rule using location, every single rule I create afterwards has to have the primary condition of location. Google's not going to let me create multiple rules with different primary conditions. And I don't know why. That feels flawed. I can think of 100 million use cases where I'd want to have different rules for different things. I'm wondering if it's a technical limitation, if Google's just trying to save us from ourselves. Because I can see how you could jump in here and create spaghetti code, but you can do that just about anywhere. So it feels like a really awkward and very clunky limitation. This is interesting too. They say there is no or option. When you select multiple options in the primary secondary condition, will automatically treat each option as an or statement. For example, if you select 2 cities, the rule will apply to either city. There's a caveat to this, which is exclusions. The exclusion is going to be an and. So this isn't entirely true, and I actually think that's an important distinction. So it's interesting to me that they didn't make that clear here. Once you create a value rule, all subsequent value rules must have the same conditions as we mentioned earlier, which again I just think is weird. You can adjust values with integers and percentages. I'll show you how you basically can say a multiple or an addition. And then this is interesting. What happens if a customer meets the conditions for multiple rules? For locations, it's whichever is most precise. For audience rules, it's Google's existing attribution hierarchy, which incidentally, I should have a video on this and I don't, but here's their attribution hierarchy. So first priority is customer match, because that's you going to Google saying, I want these people. Second priority is remarketing in similar audiences, because you're like, Google, these are the people that, kind of like ancillary. Combined audiences, affinity and in-market. It's interesting that these are on par, because I think in-market is more important than affinity, personally. And so does everybody else too. I don't know why I said that. And then detailed demographics, fine. But that's the existing hierarchy. I got a note for myself to make a video on that. And that's it. So let's do the demo. to get here, and I'd be interested actually as to how many of y'all have this. So if you don't have it, let me know. Drop it in the comments because I want to know if they rolled it out to everybody, or if it's a controlled rollout. Measurement, conversions, value rules, tool. We're gonna go. Oh wait! I gotta show you something. Check this out. Ha! I don't know why I get the biggest kick out of catching Google with their pants down. There's no article under the Learn More. I know that's just immature. Create a conversion value rule. Now you have the ability to create your primary condition, as we discussed. I'm going to use location because it's the easiest. And so we'll say location is Maricopa County, Arizona. That's where I live. And let's say I want to exclude, let's say I've got a huge competitor in Mesa, Arizona, and I know they're going to swallow up everybody. Notice over here that, contrary to Google's education, location is Maricopa County, Arizona, and not Mesa, Arizona. Now, if I come over here and say bam, target, here's an or. So, to Google's point, it's they're either in Maricopa or they're in San Bernardino, and not Mesa. So it's important to note that your exclusions are ands, not ors. Now, under location options, and I dare you to fight me on this, Google has this horrible recommendation. People in or showing interest in these locations. No. Google, no. Bad Google. This is the one that pisses me off the most because I've seen such horrible results. You want people in these locations. The showing interest in, you can get somebody from freaking Timbuktu that's interested in Maricopa. And then for the exclusion, same story. So get people that are actually physically there. And I hate that that's a recommendation. And then if we want to, we don't have to, but if we want to, we can add a secondary condition. So our secondary condition here, I'm going to make it audience. You can make a device, by the way. Here's what's funny is, why would all devices be an option? Why are we doing that? Because then that's just don't have the secondary condition. And you know what's really funny about this too is I bet you if you add all devices, you're going to see a dilution in data because there's going to be something that throws the machine off where it's like, I don't know what this is. So you can say only desktop and tablet. There's some ands and ors in here. But that's easy. What I'm going to do is audience, and then we'll say all visitors as soon as it queries the audience is. So all website visitors. Bam. So now I'm giving Google my remarketing audience and saying, hey, if they're in Maricopa County but not in Mesa, and they're revisiting my web, or they're have been website visitors in the past, then I know they're worth a lot more because whatever. This is where you need to be creative with your own business. You have to know, hey, people that come from this place are worth more. People that use this device, they're worth more. People in this audience are worth more. The audience rule is by far the most expansive because Google is allowing you to use really expansive audiences, as evidenced by the fact that I can come in here and say Montessori. And then it'll be like, in-market audience, childcare. So anybody in the childcare in-market audience is definitely worth more to me. And if you have found that, by the way, let's say you have an observation campaign running and you can see like, gosh, this audience always works better. And then once you've produced those leads, you notice that they're actually worth more to you. That's the key. Then you can come in here and make a bid adjustment. Be real careful about getting too creative here because you don't want to, you're testing with real money. You know what I mean? This isn't an observation anymore. So I've got these, and then I have to select the value. So am I adding? I'm going to add $5. Or am I multiplying? This is worth 2x, right? Or, it's worth 50% more. Be really careful, because if you add 0.5, you're cutting it in half. So decide what the value is. What does this little bubble say? I didn't click on this one. Shame on me. The base conversion value is the value you've set for the conversion actions. Okay, thank you. And then you've got math over here. So if location is or, and audience is, then, if, and, then. Coding, right? Like all of us that have ever taken like a basic coding class. I'm going to save it. Now, here's what's interessante. Conversion action rule is in place. If I go to add another conversion action rule, notice my primary condition and secondary conditions are locked. I can no longer add conversion action rules outside of this construct. Primary location, secondary audience. I don't know why they would do that. I don't get it. Baffles me. Look, this is recommended. That's it. I'm going to delete this because I actually don't want that to be a rule. Yeah. Here's why I like this. It's, first of all, super dangerous. You have to really know what you're doing. But I do like to see Google giving us power back, because I've been the straight up proverbial Chicken Little running around with my head cut off, saying the sky's falling and Google automation's taken over, and they're killing all of our resources, and that has been very true. But you have to give credit where credit's due, and then also eat a little bit of crow in that it appears that Google is giving us more tools for larger scale management, like strategic management. And I mean, I still prefer it the other way, to be frank. But of course I would, because I run an agency and I want to be able to justify my existence. But this is one of the things that really lets you be very strategic about the approach, and then work alongside the automation and machine learning instead of work against it. So this is one of those areas where Google's done a good job aligning our interests. Now, whether or not the utility ends up being of any use to you has yet to be seen. And if you're going to play with this, I'd love to know how. The 3 dimensions that they gave us, I think, are adequate. So there's a lot of room there. I would just, one very last note is I'd make sure you're paying attention to the lifetime value of a customer, yes, but then also the entire conversion path, because you might decide like, oh, customers who come in on mobile are more valuable to me, and you're thinking that because based off of your last click attribution, the people that converted were on their mobile phones. A better example, let me reverse this. You might say people that come in on their desktop are more valuable to me because I use last click attribution, and when I go in and I can see my conversion dimensions, the desktop has the highest converters. Well, if you're not looking at the long-term conversion path, what you don't realize is they actually found you on their mobile phone maybe a couple of times, and then when they were ready to convert, they went over onto your desktop, which is not uncommon, especially in B2B. So just be careful about making big, broad, sweeping generalizations. And you're going to make some mistakes. We're going to make some mistakes. That's what, that's why people pay us, is to make their mistakes for them just more efficiently. I hope this was helpful, and I appreciate y'all for watching, and I will see you tomorrow, I hope. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day, so if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.